are trying to police libraries and classrooms. There's a right-wing group in one Florida county that says they want to go woke busters and rat out any offensive schools that they say are being presented to children. The group also is now saying that they think they won after pressuring one public library to remove a display which featured books about LGBTQ history. DeSantis, for his part, is basically giving comfort to this. Now, you can't blame one politician for everything that happens in their state, even if they set a tone, but you can see how he continues to double down on censorship in schools and colleges.
Use of higher education under this view is to impose ideological conformity, to try to promote political activism. We are also going to eliminate all DEI and CRT bureaucracies in the state of Florida. No funding, and that will wither on the vine. Give students the foundation so that they can think for themselves.
You can hear the Orwellian doublespeak there, talking about thinking for yourself while taking away materials that you might read and review and make up your own mind about. Teachers in 2 counties now have been told to remove or wrap up, that is to say, censor books in classrooms until they go through this government vetting. A 3rd grade teacher speaking out in a column that her school has a media monitor required by law to vet thousands of books. The teacher had to wrap the books in caution tape, wiping the shelves bare. You can see what's going on. This is not a movie. This is not a dystopian novel. This is Ron DeSantis' Florida. She's asking, where are our books? The teacher who wrote that very piece, Andrea Phillips, is our special guest on The Beat tonight, and we're also joined by New York Times columnist Michelle Goldberg. Andrea, welcome to you. Walk us through what's happening, literally, in these classrooms.
So what's happening in Duval County classrooms is that our district is struggling and racing to comply with legislature that has been passed. On the surface, this legislature appears to be for what's in the best interest of students, not having pornographic materials or materials that's not age appropriate for students. There are some other specifications as well. But when you start to look a bit deeper, it really is causing so much chaos because every district has been told to come up with their own system for vetting these books. The books have to be vetted by a certified media specialist. Our district is very short on those. My school, for example, has a part-time person. She has told me that there is an estimated 4 million books in our district that need to be vetted, and that currently they have completed about 1,400 of them. So you can see that this is just, I mean, the task is outrageous. And the fact that these media specialists are having to do this is crazy. It's really impacting my classroom. My students don't have, books available to read. All of those books that you see in that image, those are personal books that I brought in, that I curated this library so that my students would have a diverse library to read from.
Andrea, let's dig into that, because there's what's on paper in theory. And as you mentioned, some of those rules might be consistent with past rules where you say what goes in the 5th grade classroom. But then there's what's actually happening, which is, it sounds like in practice, it is just taking books out of commission, and it seems to be erring on the side of the books that Governor DeSantis, as a personal political matter, is more against. Do you feel like this is becoming a thumb on the scale in what's available to your students?
I do, in a sense. It really is, it's disheartening. And it's so subjective, and that's where I take a big issue with this, is because what one media specialist finds to be offensive, another media specialist may consider to be appropriate. So the questions that they're asking are very general questions. Does this book contain discrimination? Does this book have pornography? A lot of the questions that are on here, does it have violence in it? These are really subjective questions that 2 different people can have 2 different answers on. And the way that these books are being vetted is not okay with me.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you speaking out on it, and you're walking us through how it really works. We're getting into it. Michelle, I'm curious what you think about the sort of Trojan horse of policy here, that one thing being presented, Michelle, some parents could understand. Well, we don't want X in the classroom. This is not new to this governor. There's going to be standards in government-run schools. That seems to be the Trojan horse for what's actually happening. I'm curious how you view it, Michelle.
Well, look, I think that you have to see this as part of a much bigger project. I mean, DeSantis has said over and over again that Florida is, quote, where woke goes to die. And so, and because woke is such a, plastic and expansive term, it's very difficult, I would imagine, if you're a teacher, particularly a teacher who's facing either community uproar or even in some cases, I believe, the threat of a felony charge, to imagine what either kind of DeSantis or his supporters are going to decide qualifies as woke. And this doesn't just, this starts in elementary school, but it really goes through every element of the Florida education system. I've been reporting on their attempt to, sort of the wholesale transformation of one of Florida's most progressive public colleges, which they're now trying to transform into a bastion of conservatism in Florida. And so it's very much, the political agenda there is not beneath the surface. And then finally, I think it's important to see that people who are working with DeSantis see Florida as a template for the nation, both in terms of other state legislatures copying these laws and, possibly DeSantis trying to enact them nationally if he ever became president.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's why so much of this, Andrea, is sort of, it feels like prop work. In the same way that we saw that with some of the immigration issues where DeSantis was doing it as, oh, well, this will get attention. This will be sort of a way to show the rest of the country or his political benefactors what he's up to. I'm curious what your students might think, to the extent you can share. Are you trying to shield them largely from the whole debate, or is Florida, they're sentient beings and they see the caution tape and they have their parents, and how's that all play out?
I work with third grade students who are between the ages of 8 and 10. And so they're more interested in TikTok than the news, unfortunately, but most of their political views are coming from home. But my students are upset that we don't have books in the classroom. I started running a little free library out of my classroom last year because I work in a low socioeconomic neighborhood and I wanted my students to have access to books. And that's why my heart is broken, because I have spent a lot of time going to my community, going to, business partners, people that I know personally, and asking for books for my classroom. And it's a thankless position that I have put myself in, to gather these books and to curate all of this collection for my students so that they can come and have books available to them. And so they're upset and they're sad. And a day hasn't gone by where a student hasn't said to me, "Can we have books yet? Is the rule fixed yet that we can get our books yet? Have they been approved?" And so it hurts my heart. It really does. I've said it 1,000 times, but every day my heart hurts from this when I have to look into a kid's face and say, "I'm sorry, I can't give you a book."
Right. Well, I think that really lays out how this is working, what the policy impact is in the classrooms, and people then can see where the censorship is. Andrea Phillips, thank you for telling us about what's going on. I got to fit in a break, but we'll have you back sometime. But I got more stuff coming up.